So recently I read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which is a dystopic novel, and in that world, every 60-year-old looks like a 20-year-old. I'd like to read out a couple of lines from that passage, from that book, where these people who live in that world are looking at someone who actually did not undergo any of those procedures to look like a 20-year-old and has just aged naturally. They had never seen a face like hers before, had never seen a face that was not youthful and taut skinned, a body that had ceased to be slim and upright. All these moribund sexagenarians had the appearance of childish girls. At 44, Linda seemed, by contrast, a monster of flaccid and distorted senility. So, so much for being dystopic. It's the reality that we live in today, at least in some parts of the world. We're all familiar with cosmetic procedures, Botox, fillers, facelifts, eyelid surgeries, whatnot. I want to today explore this idea why that exists, why do people want to do that, and the second part of the video will be about why is it important to condemn these practices, why is it so important to be a part of this conversation. Being on which side of the conversation is a different thing, but firstly one needs to be a part of this conversation at least. So firstly, why this idea of looking young? Firstly, very simply, according to certain standards, it is aesthetically pleasing to look at, right? um, Maybe in some cases not, but going by some normal conventional standards, it is aesthetically pleasing to look at. Second, looking young represents youth, uh, power, agility, energy, something, a kind of power which cannot be bought with money. But there are other powers that cannot be bought with money, like, say, intelligence, being well read, cannot be bought with money, right? But what is the difference between looking young and being intelligent? For example, looking young is the quickest way to signal virtue. By possessing intelligence, you have to at least utter something, utter one sentence, at the least, to show some virtue. But you don't even have to interact with anyone if you look young, to signal that kind of youth and power that cannot be bought. And this ranges from 25-year-olds ingesting collagen in what form I do not know, to 14-year-olds doing skincare and putting retinol and what all acids on their face, right? So, what are the effects of doing all these procedures, or even intense skincare, like those vampire facials and whatnot? Botox and fillers, they will give this perception that you look young, that your skin is not wrinkly and not sagging, it's intact. Um, but it just gives this illusion of looking young. You don't actually look young. No 60-year-old looks like a 20-year-old, no matter how many procedures they undergo. So, what are Botox and fillers and cosmetic procedures actually doing? They are changing the template of what a 60-year-old, a 40-year-old, or a 90-year-old should look like. What is the average, like, stock photo of a 60-year-old? What that looks like? They are changing that. No one actually is looking young. So this is the reason I believe cosmetic procedures and all of these things, doing that or not doing them, becomes an ethical conversation. Why? Because you are affecting not just your life but the people around you. By a stretch, we can assume that your body, your face, your choice, so it doesn't matter. There are implications of that argument as well, which we're not going to go into right now. But you are not just affecting yourself, you are affecting the world as you do these things to yourself. You are changing bit by bit what the face of a 60-year-old should look like. And there, I feel like there's only so much that we can blame the Kardashians for, because these are 7, 8 ultra rich, wealthy women who make beauty trends, who make uh, standards of body, what bodies should look like. And they make them and they break them, and make one up again, and they're able to follow them all because they're the ones making them. And it doesn't always come with uh, fairly natural procedures like exercising or not exercising, eating a lot of shitty food. So I feel, yes, they are responsible for all of that, but it is still, it can still be resistible. What actually creates the problem is when I see people around me indulging in it. When I see people who look like me indulging in it, when I see people with jobs like me indulging in it, when I see my friends, family, my distant relatives indulging into it, that is when it actually starts to affect me more deeply. Now I guess the world has become smaller with internet and globalization, but still it's not the same as if I see a Kardashian do it or if I see my mom do it. There is a big difference, right? So because once the trend of looking like porcelain dolls finally fades away, trends usually every time they fade away, it happens. The pendulum will swing the other side, and wrinkles and smile lines and stretch marks come back. These ultra wealthy women or men, these celebrities, they can afford to get back to the mm, previous stage or go to any other stage that the trend is at. You and me, we the common people, the average person, we cannot do that. So we hold more responsibility towards ourselves and towards our peers to not fall into these traps, because it is not affordable for us to indulge in these highly transient, ever changing cycles of trends. Now coming to why I think it is unethical to not condemn these people or these practices. Firstly, I think we are going to start with this premise, and if you agree with this, I hope the argument will make sense. My first premise is that people have a moral duty to the society that they reside in. They have that moral duty to every other person residing in a society, and if you don't want to have that duty, you should not reside in that society. Go into the wilderness, into the wild, stay in a van somewhere, but you are a part of society, so you do hold that moral responsibility towards others. And I say moral, not ethical, because these are not specific codes that I will give you or someone else will give you or God will give you, but what seems moral to you. If we take this premise to be fair, then we move on to that we all hold the power to influence the people around us, my friends, my neighbors, my nieces and nephews, my mother, my father, my brother, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my partner. I have the power to influence them. And as Voltaire said, with great power comes great responsibility. So if I have the power to influence these people, I also have the responsibility to not influence in a manner which will be detrimental to them. And this is my argument for why we shouldn't indulge in it ourselves. Now, why is it so necessary to condemn these practices? Saying that there's this conversation that I've heard around that if people, these celebrities, admit to whatever work and procedures they've gotten done, then it's fine. Because they're not saying that, oh, this is achievable and this is normal, and you do some mewing and you'll get a thin, slim face. And there's this conversation that if you admit to it, then the crime is okay. I would judge that this argument comes from a sheer lack of critical thinking skills, which would allow one to give their 2 cents to a conversation. I believe when there is absence of voices of dissent, the new, that is the trend, will become the norm. Let's consider Newton's first law of motion. A body will stay in motion or stay at rest unless net external forces applied to it. So I believe these things will become the norm. Cosmetic procedures, injecting needles into your faces, it already has become the norm, and it will stay the norm unless there are external voices of dissent condemning it. And we have to be these voices. And by not being a part of the conversation at all, I think we contribute to the rising anxieties and insecurities of children and adults alike all around the world. Just saying that I wouldn't do it, but I also wouldn't judge anyone who does it, is just laziness in thinking. I have seen a lot of conversation about this on YouTube, let's say, and they put some great points ahead. But something that I have gripes with is the video always starts with this disclaimer that I with this disclaimer that this is I'm just expressing my views here, and I don't condemn anyone who does it. I don't judge anyone who does it. It's their body and their choice, just in order to not offend anyone. And I also believe we have entered into this uh, post-truth world, which somehow implies that everything is offensive and anyone can get offended by anything, and there is no real truth. But that does not mean that we cannot seek for approximation of truth, and that does not mean that we cannot put forward our opinions and our points for the fear of offending someone. If it is offending someone, let it offend someone. What's the worst that it can get? If you offend the right people, you will bring about a good change. That is what I feel. And yeah, if you guys are still here, thank you for watching the video, and thank you for listening to me. This was actually quite a passionate thing that I wanted to talk about, and I talk to people about it around me a lot. So thank you for listening to me. And if you're still here, I would like to give a shout out to my book club that I'm starting in like a couple of days, starting New Year. And I will link the details of it in my description. So if you find it interesting, please do join. Uh, I would really love to have conversations with different people and read books together. So yeah, that's the video. Thank you so much.